up those nets and pull that boat up on the shore. Yeah, right there. Whoa. Wow. What have we got here? Do you know who I am? Never heard of him. Never heard of him.
I can tell by your face.
Whoa, wait a second. I don't know a Pastor Wade, but I do know a Rabbi Wade down from Vestavia, Bethlehem. Is that who you're talking about?
No, I'm talking
Rabbi Wade? Real handsome, smart, strong.
You're Mr. Pastor Wade. You're in disguise.
Nope. Here's a hint who I am. No. Joseph would have had a hammer in his hand, wouldn't he? What did Joseph do for a living? Hold on one second. What did Joseph do for a living? Joseph, what did Joseph do, Joseph? He was a carpenter, so he wouldn't have had a net. He would have had a what, Claire? What would Joseph have had in his hand instead of a net? A hammer? All right. I'm a fishing person, but which fishing person am I, Ashley? John the Baptist, great guess. Anybody else want to guess? That's a great guess. We got a lot of good guesses. Who was a fisherman in the Bible? Does anybody know? A very important person, Cam. Peter. How did you know? That's my name. Peter. Peter, me, my brother Andrew, were the very first Christians in the whole world. Did you know that? We were the very first Christians in the whole world. Jesus was walking along the shore one day, and there we were. What were we doing? What do y'all think we were doing? We were fishing? Nope, we weren't fishing. We'd already been fishing, but when you fish with your net long enough, what happens to the net over time? It breaks. So we were mending our nets. Can you say that? Mending our nets means we were fixing them. I had some rope and a needle. I was fixing my net. Here comes this guy walking along, and he says, "Follow me. I will make you fishers of" what? Anybody know? Men. Who said that? I thought so. Good job. Because up to that point, we had been fishers of what? Fishers of fish. That's right. But he said, "I'm going to make you fishers of men." Like that. Can you imagine that? Be fishers of men. Be fishers of men. Be fishers of men. Be fishers of men. All right. That's it. Now listen. I'm just a simple fisherman. I didn't go to college like your mama and daddy. All right? So I didn't know what he meant by that. Fishers of men. How am I going to catch men? I can't catch men. And so, but something inside me. Y'all sit up now. Sit up now. You can't hear me like that. Sit up. Listen. Something inside me. Sit. Turn around. Something inside me happened when I heard Jesus say, "Follow me." Something in my heart. I felt something in my heart just squeeze when Jesus said, "Follow me," and I knew that it was God talking to me. And so what I did was simple. I had in my hand what? A net. I threw down my net and I followed him. And man, that began the biggest adventure of my life. And I learned a lot of things when I was following Jesus. One of them is, and this is appropriate for you guys to hear at Christmas, is that you don't always get what you ask for in life. Sometimes what we ask for isn't as good as what God wants to give us. And so we ask for this much, but God wants to give us this much. So we ask for something and he says, "No, I'm not going to give you that. I'm going to give you something better than that." And sometimes that even happens at Christmas. Anybody ever ask for a pet monkey? Right? He may say no to that, okay? All right? In fact, I could bet on it if I were a betting disciple, but I'm not. Sometimes God's answer is no, because he loves us. What if you ask for something that's bad for you? What's God going to say? No, because he's not going to do anything to hurt you. So sometimes the answer is no. Well, let me just tell you what I wanted so badly that I wanted. Back in those days where I lived in Judea, okay, on the Sea of Galilee, where I was a fisherman, our country had been taken over by a foreign army. Our country had been taken over by the army of an empire by the name of what? What empire? Harry, that's right. The Roman Empire had taken us over. So another country had came in, and just think about it. Our country wasn't just any country. It was God's country. It was God's holy land that he had given us, the Israelite people. So it wasn't just any country somebody had taken over, people who didn't believe in God. It was God's country. So what did I want more than anything in my heart? But for God to come and throw those Romans out and us to restore this to the way it was supposed to be, led and run by God. So when I thought about a Messiah coming, I thought he would come and he would start handing out swords and shields so that we could lead an army against the Roman army. I wanted sword and shields. Jesus showed up. He didn't give us swords and shield. He gave us bandages and bread. Those weren't the weapons that I was expecting. I was ready. I'm pretty strong. I'm a fisherman. I knew a bunch of guys. We wanted swords and shields, not bandages and bread. So sometimes God doesn't give us what we want. Instead, he gives us what we need. Now, just imagine, if we had known that it was going to be bandages and bread instead of swords and shields, would the shepherds have shown up? They were probably thinking the same thing. The wise men, would they have shown up if they had known there was going to be a spiritual revolution? Would they have shown up? Would Herod have been scared? Probably not. Here's a better question. If God was going to give you what you needed instead of what you wanted, would you have shown up? Would you have shown up? I was one of the worst of the ones, so I got to tell you, you wouldn't think that because I'm Peter, and he built his church on me. He said, on this rock, the word Peter means rock. Cephas is the actual word. It means rock. He said, on this rock, he would build his church. That's pretty good. But I was one of the biggest problems for him because I had in my mind what it was going to be. It was going to be a movement, and we were going to sweep into Jerusalem and knock out the Romans, and I was going to be sitting at the table with him in charge of it all. And so when he decided to go to Jerusalem where there was going to be a cross, and he was going to be killed on that cross, I said, don't go. Let's don't go. They're waiting for you there. Let's don't go. And he said something to me that's just burned in my mind that I'll never forget. He said, Peter, he said, get thee behind me, Satan. Now, most people don't know that the word Satan in Hebrew means adversary or opposition. And what he meant was that I was trying to stop him. Even though I was his friend, I was a disciple, he would build his church on me, that I was trying to stop him from doing what God wanted him to do. Sometimes as the church, we get in the way of what God's doing instead of helping what God's doing. He said, get thee behind me, Satan. So he wasn't what I wanted him to be. He was who he was. I look back and I don't even think I saw him. I think I was spiritually blind because my head was full of what I wanted him to be. Sometimes when we're so fixated on what the answer should be that we're praying for or praying about, we're so fixated on what we want the answer to be that we can't hear God telling us what the answer is. We can't even see who Jesus really is. And I don't think it's changed. I look around at this Christmas season, you know what I really see? I don't see much Jesus, but I see a lot of colored lights and a lot of credit cards and caffeinated craze of consumerism, and I wonder where is Jesus in all of that? Where is Jesus in all of it? Now think with me for a minute. Some of you may know the answer to this, but I want to ask. He called us to throw down our nets. We used to catch fish. Why did we catch the fish? So that we could what? We caught the fish to eat them. He told us that we should catch them and feed them. That's a little bit different. Don't catch and eat them, catch and feed them. And I'll tell you how that happened. The last time I saw Jesus on earth, he'd been crucified. He was raised from the dead. But we were kind of lost because we didn't have him with us there in the body anymore. And so we went back to what we knew about. What did we know about? The one thing we knew about, we went back to that. And we were out fishing in the Sea of Galilee. And we were throwing our net out. And let me ask you, were we catching anything, you think, without Jesus with us? Yeah, we weren't. And so I looked over and I saw this guy on the beach. I didn't recognize him. And he said something crazy. He said, throw your net on the other side of the boat. Now let me ask you, if there's no fish over here, you think there's fish over there? Well, I didn't think so. I thought that guy was crazy. But so, again, I felt that squeezing in my heart, like when he said, follow me. And so I did mumble a few things under my breath. But then I threw the net on the other side of the boat, and it was full of fish, full of fish. And then I realized when I saw that catch, I thought, that's Jesus. And I was so excited that I started taking my clothes off. Don't worry, not going to happen today. And I jumped in the water and swam over there, and it was Jesus on the beach. Now think about that. Where did my life with Jesus begin? On the beach. And the last time I saw him, where did we spend time together? It came full circle, didn't it? And there on the beach, he had built a fire, and he was cooking fish, and he told me something I'll never forget, and I want y'all to hear this, because this will tell you what your life is supposed to look like. You want to know what your life's supposed to look like? Here it is. I walked up on the shore. I was so excited. He asked me a question that kind of hurt a little bit. He said, Peter, do you love me? Say that with me. Peter, do you love me? And I said, yes, Lord, I do. And you know what he said then? Peter, do you love me? Say it. Peter, do you love me? I said, yes, Lord, you know I do. What would you have said if he had said, Austin, do you love me? What would you have said? Yes. Haynes, do you love me? What would you have said? Reese, what would you have said if Jesus said, Reese, do you love me? You would have said yes. And so I said yes. And then a third time he said, Peter, do you love me? And then I said, he was breaking my heart. I said, yes, I love you. And then he said this. He really had my attention then. He said, feed my sheep. Now see, my whole life was catching these to feed myself. But he said, feed my sheep. He spread out his hands, and I knew he was talking about the whole world, and I realized something important. When you meet Jesus, when you really meet Jesus, you know what happens? You trade your bib in. Who wears a bib when they eat? A baby. You trade your bib in, and he gives you an apron. Now, what do you wear an apron for? Yeah. You know you've met Jesus when you've traded your bib in for an apron. And you get out of that holy high chair and put down the baby food. Who sits in a high chair? What Jesus was telling us, he was saying, Peter, take your bib off. Take your bib off and put on your apron. Because following me doesn't happen when you're sitting on your bottom. It happens when you're standing on your feet. Now, I know you guys can't drive. Does anybody here have their chariot driver's license yet? Chariot driver's license? No, you do, Harry? You got your chariot driver? That's good. That's frightening, but good. But good. So you have to have someone take you to do certain things. But Christianity is about following Jesus. You can think you're a Christian your whole life. But if you're not following Jesus, if you hadn't traded that bib in for an apron, we want to wear that bib our whole lives. Now, we want our kids out of school after 5 years, but we want to sit in school forever. Following Jesus, you take that bib off. Put that apron on. I'll make you fishers of men. Feed my sheep, he said. You'll know that Jesus is what your Christmas is about. When in your family, you were out feeding the world and tending the needs of all people. What do you want to wear, a bib or an apron? An apron. Me too. When we were there on the beach, he did something. He had bread in his hands, and he did something with it. Does anybody want to guess what he did? He split it, or as I like to say, what? What does he do? What do I say? He broke the bread. He broke the bread. That's right. He broke it, and when he broke that bread, it made me think of something. It made me think of the Passover meal, which was the night before the crucifixion. It made me think about that. Luke, will you help me break the bread? Put your hands on it and pull it. Two hands. Pull. You ready? Pull. There you go. He broke the bread. And I remembered that he had said, "This is my body which is broken for you. Whenever you eat it, do it in remembrance of me." It reminded me of that night when he had taken the cup and he said, "This is my cup, my blood of the new covenant poured out for you and for many for the forgiveness of sins." And it reminded me that he had died on that cross so that all of my what could be forgiven? My sins could be forgiven. And so that I would know that one day when I die, he would make a place for me where? And that no matter what I face every day in my life, who's walking with me every day? Jesus. So this morning, as you guys come to receive the bread and the cup, know that you are, look at me, I want every little eye on me, that God's love for you is so big. Bigger than that ocean that I saw there as we ate with Jesus. His love for you is that big that he would die for you to give you the blessing of a place in this work, to put on your apron, and let's go feed his sheep. Will you pray with me?